Joining us now is Tim Murtaugh, the Director of Communications for the 2020 Trump campaign. Tim, last night when you were looking at the news, whether it was on the left on CNN and MSNBC, they were painting a picture that hydroxychloroquine will kill you. And then on the right, you had this picture that hydroxychloroquine was maybe the miracle drug. Of course, if you watched it earlier in the day, Neil Cavuto also said it'll kill you. I think the American people aren't getting the straight picture when it comes to this drug that does have legitimate means, but also needs to be prescribed by a doctor, followed very appropriately. What does this tell you about the state of the media, though, where it's always kind of one or the other?
Well, I think it's interesting. First, let me point out that what you said there at the very end is very important. If people are considering any kind of treatment of any kind, especially right now with the coronavirus, they should absolutely consult with their doctors and not make any decisions like that unless they are under a doctor's care. So that's very important. But I think it's very illustrative what you see from the news media here. And I think a lot was made that there were two differing points of view on Fox about it, both pro and con the hydroxychloroquine. And then CNN, of course, is dead set against it because the president thinks it's an optimistic, good approach for some people. But CNN, actually online, one of their media critics was all over Fox News today for having differing opinions. And I don't think that makes the point that he thought that he was trying to make.
Right.
What it actually says is that dissent is not tolerated at CNN, that everybody has to be in lockstep with the company line at CNN. And so I guess if he's observing on Fox, they have differing points of view. At CNN, that's forbidden. I don't understand that. But at the media, by and large, if President Trump, who is now taking the drug, as he just revealed yesterday, if President Trump says up, the media will automatically say down. So he's optimistic about the use of this drug, therefore the media must be against it. It's just a knee-jerk reaction that they always have.
Yeah, I think what that reporter, I don't want to name him by name or anything like that, I don't want people flooding his mentions, but I think he was forgetting that's what debate is. That's the whole point of having different perspectives coming into a conversation. And when you're getting mad at a news outlet of all places for bringing in different perspectives, I think that shows really what you're doing. At that point, it's no longer journalistic enterprise. At that point, you're pushing a narrative that you want to be true. And that's damaging for the viewer, in my opinion. I guess it's for the viewers to make up for their own minds, and viewers are kind of showing CNN how they think about that. But when we talk about Fox News too, the president did show some frustrations last night with Neil Cavuto, but they seem to be short-lived type of frustrations. It's usually things that they find a common ground moving forward. Of course, Fox News is a little bit more conservative, but then you see on the left, there are a little bit more different outlets, more plethora of outlets that are more so against the president. How do you combat that as a campaign moving forward?
Well, you just have to. It's a full-time job, really. It begins early in the morning and it extends to late at night. We know that the national news media has been against President Trump since he came down the escalator in 2015 in that famous moment. They've been out to get him ever since, and it continues to this day. And so we just fight back. We try to point out the error of their ways. We do fact checks on them. We call them out on Twitter, and some of them have thin skins, and they send us DMs and things on Twitter objecting to, having been named publicly, or we get text messages from them, of course. But you just have to keep fighting back and, keep punching. That's why we have a war room. Part of the war room's duty is to go after things that Joe Biden and the Democrats say and do. But really, I would say more than half of the time, the war room is in battle with the media and trying to push back on these narratives, because the media has a really big megaphone. President Trump has the biggest one of all. But the media filter and the way that they try to shape and slant the news. And also what's important is to notice what the mainstream media does not report. That's another way that they show their bias, is what they don't talk about.
And I'll add to that a little bit, too. When you watch some of their primetime shows, whether it's on MSNBC or CNN in particular, they don't represent the other viewpoint. In fact, I can't name the last time that there was a pro-Trump voice on any of those shows in the primetime in particular. And I think that's damaging once again for the viewer. I mean, I think that because if you watch CNN, for example, and then you go elsewhere and see that other viewpoint, it becomes very obvious that they're not showing the other side of the story, and therefore it deteriorates trust in that outlet. But before I let you go, too, I do want to talk about the investigations that are taking place. Senate Republicans look like they're finally following through on some of the things that they've been promising for the past couple of years. Do you think that this is the right time and the right thing to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's about time. I'm glad that they're getting rolling on this. And I heard Senator Schumer's remarks there that you just played, and I think that's just hilarious. He is now calling this some sort of far-fetched Russian conspiracy theory. This is the guy who led the entire nation through a 2-year conspiracy theory involving alleged Russia collusion, which we all know now was a complete hoax. And he has the nerve to stand on the Senate floor and complain about somebody concocting some sort of Russian conspiracy theory. I guess the irony is dead, or at least he has no self-awareness, or anybody in the Democrat Party. So, yeah, I think looking into this is all very, very important. The whole country got dragged through the false Russia hoax, the collusion hoax. The whole country did for 2 entire years. And it is high time that we took a look at exactly who it was who created that mess in the first place. Absolutely.
And even when we look at the division that stemmed from that investigation, that's exactly what Russia wanted. The whole goal of their misinformation campaign was to sow discord in the United States, and it looks like the only Russian disinformation that really made its way into the American discourse was the dossier, where a lot of people are now saying that Christopher Steele was given Russian disinformation to essentially launch this investigation. So I think the American people do want more answers when it comes to this, and I think you're right to say that this investigation needs to happen in order to answer those questions. Tim Murtaugh, I appreciate you coming on tonight. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Anytime. Thank you.